Well, if this works today, it will be miraculous. Um, I lost the tiniest of screws from the camera holder, my phone holder, an expensive phone holder for my other apparatus, and now it's rendered useless because it's the piece that holds the phone. So no matter what all the other gimbals does, can't hold the phone in place. So I'm using a new one, and it's got like 32 million functions. So welcome back. Today I just want to talk a little bit about storage and just about how I do storage. And I will tell you basically that I think the old-fashioned term for it was anal retentive. Maybe the new term is OCD. But I like my storage to match. Probably a lot of people are that way, and maybe some people are just happy to have things in storage. But I have some exceptions, but basically I wanted all my storage bins to be matchy-matchy. The vast majority of my storage bins are like these. Now I have these in 3 different sizes. I have this size, I have this size that's twice as deep, and then I have one that is a little bit smaller shelf size. I don't like those as much because they're not stackable with this size. This one and the one double deep are exactly the same width and length, so I can stack them up on top of each other. The third size, you can't stack them mixed in with these because they're not the same width and length. But the vast majority of my fabric are in these, and most of them are not labeled, but some of them are. I try and keep all of my fabric in categories. Like all of my silk du peony are in one area, and if I'm really organized, then I actually have them labeled by color. The silks are not labeled yet, but they will be. If I get really fancy, what I really like to do is make a label for the outside of the bin that has the name of the designer on it, if I actually have a lot of fabric from that designer. And I do have some cases like that. The problem came up that these particular containers, which generally I got, I think, from Walmart, especially lately, the only difference between them is that the shade of green, and I don't mind that. There's this shade and a little bit more natural Mother Nature type green. I'm okay with those two. I don't want any other color like blue or any other type of strapping or anything on those bins, on my standard bins. That's where I get a little OCD. And so Walmart has all kinds of bins, so do other stores, but I don't want them. I won't buy any other kind of bin, even if I need to store my fabric, generally. There are a couple exceptions though. When I started getting Liberty of London fabric, that fabric is so ridiculously expensive. I felt like it deserved a little bit more prestigious bin, a little bit more fancy packaging. So when I was looking, I was going to buy the same type of containers for those, but I think I was at what is that, Home Goods, Target, Marshalls type store last year around my birthday, and I found these types of acrylic type storage bins. They had several different sizes, and I got several different sizes. And I think typically these are made for like women's shoes. They have ventilation on the side, but they're made for closet storage. But they're a hard, flexible kind of acrylic. And I thought they were uber fancy. and I thought they matched the caliber of the fabric that I wanted to put in them. And so I was okay with incorporating a new type of bin, because ultimately I didn't really think I was going to be storing the Liberty fabric in the same area that I was with the other fabric, because it was too common. It was just too common. It was too pedestrian. So the Liberty fabric will find a special area. I mean, I don't have a lot of it to begin with because it is expensive, but it is in special containers, and it will get labeled as well when I get a little bit more organized. But it'll get labeled by probably color or size or something. And my gosh, if you haven't ever felt Liberty Tantalon fabric, it's almost like silky. It falls under the category of like a Pima cotton, super fine, Tantalon, very nice. Anyway, the other type of container I've had, and I've had these for quite some time, are these green containers. These particular green containers, I have maybe 8 or 10 of these. These are specific to one designer. These are William Morris reproduction fabrics. All of these bins are specific to William Morris, so if I'm looking for William Morris fabric, I know I only have to look for these bins. I have a lot of William Morris fabric. I've loved William Morris for a long time, probably as long as I've been quilting. I always wonder if he were still alive, what he would be designing today. You know, you wonder how everyone evolves in their process, and some people evolve very quickly. If you look at designers like Jason Yenter, my goodness, he has such an incredible creative mind. His collections change so rapidly. I just wonder sometimes, like with William Morris, what he would be designing today. I've recently discovered on YouTube a series called The 6 Know-It-Alls, and it's 6 women who talk about mostly vintage antique quilts and the history behind them, and they each have specialties. So each episode, generally, they pick a favorite quilt and they'll talk about the history behind that. But one of the episodes, one of the speakers was saying that William Morris didn't really like fabric or fabric designing or something to that effect. And it almost hurt my feelings. It almost crushed me. So I thought that was funny. Funny in a not funny way. So recently I've had a new problem. And that is that I have kind of fallen in love with Tilda fabric. And with that came a problem of how to store it. And because I was late to the game, I was seeing that there's a lot of different collections that she had out. And I didn't want to just put everything hodgepodge in different collections. One of the neat things about Tilda is that all of her patterns are free. So if you see a Tilda pattern, well, she probably has books that you have to pay for. So I'll say that. I know that she does have books you have to pay for. But when you see a collection and a pattern for that collection, it's free on her website. So if you go to the tildaworld.com, you could download, dozens and dozens of patterns for pillows and dolls and quilts and wall hangings. They're quite long. The patterns are usually 11 to 18 pages long. They're quite thorough. And some of the pieces have small pieces, some of the, but not all of them. But they're free. So you just have to have a printer, computer and a printer. So when I print off my patterns, I like to put them in the box or the bin with that particular collection. So I print them off, the one I like, the ones I like, and I put them in with so this is the Bloomville Blooming Lantern, and so I have that in with my Bloomville collection. But how to store them. So as I said, Walmart hasn't been having the green bins that I like. They have that one odd size that I don't want, and they have the super big ones that I don't want anymore either, because I don't have that much space. I wanted the narrow ones like I had shown, because they stack better, and not all these collections are big. So I've been making a lot of trips to all three, Lowe's, Home Depot, and Menards. We have all three in our local area because I've been renovating here and the old place. I go every day, every other day to at least one. And I just happened to get a hair up my nose, and I thought, well, I'm going to go look at their storage bins at Menards. And Menards got in these. I don't know if they were a special buy, but these had the purple handles. And at first I was like, nope, not doing it. But then I thought for a second, and the purple just kind of rang true to me for Tilda for some reason. I just thought, you know what? This could be my symbol for the Tilda fabric. And the neat thing about these were that they had several different sizes in the exact same bin with handles. So I got some of these smaller ones for some work in progress. I got one for buttons and ribbon. I have like 4 or 5 of those. I got several of these because there's some collections that are quite small that were just like they were add-ons to regular collections, like fillers and solids and chambrays and stuff, solids and stripes. And then some of the older collections, I knew I'd never be able to get very much of those either. So, you know, those smaller bins would work for that. But then I also got some of the bigger bins for collections that are more currently in stock. This particular one has 3 different collections in it. It has Sanctuary, Hibernation, and Daisy Field in it. But I like that I can see through them. But I also labeled them in 3 different places so that I can easily see which, regardless of how I stack them in the shelving, what's in them. So here's another size of that. And I can easily switch them in and out if the fabric inside overgrows the bin. I can move it out to a bigger bin, and if it decreases to the size that it no longer fits that, I can move it out of that also into a smaller one as I use it, because there are several things in there that I want to make. But that's just what I like to do with my storage. I've always kept my fabric in bins. Yeah, ever since I started. I originally started, my first sewing studio was in the garage of my parents' house. They let me convert it into a sewing studio. So I took the garage door out and I bricked it up, and I put tile floor down, and I had basically a 2-car garage that I converted into a sewing studio, and I had wire racking in there with the plastic bins. Now that particular studio, we had a washer and dryer in there, and one day my mom was doing a load of laundry and the control panel of the dryer caught fire, and that studio basically was burnt to the ground. I remember my fabric being out. The firemen just pulled it outside to help put it out, and it was all in a pile, all singed. And the insurance agent, one of the insurance agents came by, was a woman, and she was like picking through my burnt, singed fabric, and she said, "Oh my gosh, is there enough of this for you to make me a mini skirt?" Can you imagine? Oh, Lord have mercy. Anyway, I've always stored in plastic bins. I like it because it keeps the dust off. As I said, it was a garage, so it kept any rodents or bugs off. We lived in South Florida, so you know, didn't matter what kind of living condition you had at your house, that you were going to have palmetto bugs at some point in your life. I didn't want no palmetto bugs crawling on my rose fabric. So I like to have the nice airtight bins to keep all the critters off my fabric, all the dust off my fabric. So I've just always liked storage bins. You do have to monitor how much sunlight they get. I know some people online have said that they have pulled fabric out of a bin and had a funky smell to it. I've never ever had that problem. But I will tell you two things, and I've said this before. I always wash everything that I get, unless it's something that can't be washed, like silk du peony or 2.5-inch strips. Everything that comes in my house is washed. If somebody gave me fabric that they have washed, I wash it again, because I don't want other people's stuff, and you know, it's just a clean thing. I just don't want it. You know, we don't, well, I don't. I've never, since I was young, if I bought clothes, they went in the washer before they went on my body. If you didn't, I would be itching. You know, that stuff is itchy, it's scratchy, it's stiff. Same with my fabric. I don't want to work with something that's all stiff and itchy and who knows where it's been. So I always wash my fabric before it goes in the bin. It's always completely dry. If I'm a good boy, I will iron it before it goes in the bin. That's going to be my really healthy new practice. You can get a lot more fabric into a bin if it's been ironed. The other thing is that I like to use a little dryer sheet. I know some people don't like that, but I also will lay my dryer sheet in there after it's been used, and it just has a nice little scent to it. I've never had a bad smell. So I don't know where that would come from. I don't know, some people use well water or have hard water or what, or if it was something in the type of bin they bought. So that's my thing on storage for today. The reason I'm talking about storage is basically because storage is the one thing that I can also be working on while everything else is going on. I'm remarkably close to being finished over at the other place. I almost hesitate to say it, but that is true. We're just down to some last little painting details. And we'll be very relieved. So, but I can work on doing some storage stuff and some sorting. And as I said, I also like to label. So I just find labeling things help me find them, even if I can see through the fabric. Sometimes I can't remember what a collection is, what the name of a collection is, especially if I haven't handled it for a while. So if I am looking for something very specifically, having the name of the collection on the outside really is a help to me. And also, it's almost like learning another language with fabric. If I see the name associated with the print over and over, it just helps reinforce the name of those fabrics. And I like knowing the name of them because, you know, you go to a guild and you do your show and tell, and people say, "Oh my goodness, what's the name of that collection?" And you're like, "I don't know," because you don't have any selvages left on the quilt when it's finished. So it's just nice to remember the name, for me anyway. And so that's it for me today for storage. I look forward to seeing you here again next time. Until then, keep piecing it together.